Hi guys, and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to give you a brief overview and installation guide for the iNav fixed wing group Lite OpenTX model. So let's not waste any time. Let's watch the little intro I made and then we'll crack on. Okay, if you watched it, thanks for watching that little intro. It was just fun making it. Sorry about the thunder. It's going to be an interesting video. Anyway, let's take a look at the iNav fixed wing group Lite OpenTX model. So like everything, it can be found on the website, which unsurprisingly is inavfixedwinggroup.com. And let's have a look at what we have here. So the first thing we come to of any real significance is the download link. So just click it and it will download the model. So I'll just do that quickly. Rain's going to be brilliant for the video. Anyway, let's crack on. So we have quite a comprehensive installation guide here. If you've seen our Pro and Standard model, in particular the Standard model, you'll be very familiar with it. So I'm not going to cover the whole thing, but if you do follow this guide through, it will take you step by step for installing. But we'll cover that in this video anyway, just in case you're not a reader. I don't mean that you can't read. You know, some people just don't like to read. They would rather watch a video. So there's a couple of things to take note of. This was built on OpenTX Companion 2.3.10, but it should work on older versions with no problem. It's not using any features that are new to 2.3.10. The supported transmitters at the moment are the FreeSky XLite, XLite S, XLite Pro, X9 Lite, and X9 Lite S. So they're the five transmitters that are supported at the moment. You may have seen in the intro video that we're going to look to include the new jumper model that's coming out. I believe there was another transmitter that I put in that video as well. So there's two more transmitters coming up in the future that will most likely get added to this pack. This pack is slightly different to all the others. So with the Standard model and the Pro model, the actual physical model itself, the OpenTX model, is basically the same on all those transmitters. For the most case, it's literally just to go from one transmitter to another. I'm just opening OpenTX Companion, changing the transmitter type, dragging it in, and just checking that there's nothing wrong. With these models, each one is actually different. So the XLite is different to the XLite S and Pro, and the X9 is different to the XLite. And again, the Standard X9 Lite and the X9 Lite S are both different. So there's some things that have features that the others don't have. So what I'm going to do is go have a brief overview now of the switch layout, and we can see what's basically going on. As far as features go, the only transmitter that's really lacking features is the base model XLite. The S, the Pro, the X9 Lite and the X9 Lite S have all the same features. It's just the Standard XLite that is missing the multifunction momentary switch. So that's all you're not really getting in this pack, and it's simply because the switch doesn't exist. So as you can see, we've basically used up every switch on the transmitter, where it's quite limited. And we have had to put other functions onto other areas that you wouldn't necessarily associate with it. And also the way we've done the flight modes is a little more complex, but if we didn't do it like this, you would only have 5 at best. So I'll go over some of the things now. Very basic things. OSD selection is on the little slider at the back. And same with auto tune and auto trim, that's on the slider on the other side. And I've deliberately made it so that the center section on that slider in particular is quite big. So you need to really go to the extremes either way to get to auto trim and auto tune. This is because I don't actually own one of these transmitters, but I did use one once. A friend of mine got one, and I did find that it was very easy to knock those little sliders. So I've tried to make it so there's as least a chance as possible of actually turning the auto trim or auto tune on if you don't want to. Again, we're working with what we've got, so that was the only real way I could get that done. The arming switch is very simple. At the moment, when you get it, it's set towards you is disarmed, away from you is armed, and there's a very simple process for reversing that, which is in the documentation, but I'll also show you when we install the model. So SD actually is the only switch that we don't use, which is the two-way switch at the top. So you've got that there if you want to use auto launch or something like that. On the XLite S and XLite Pro, the momentary switch on the right hand side is the multifunction momentary switch. So you hold it down, you hear voice commands, let it go on the one you want, and it will do that function for you. So with flight modes, it's on the 2 free position switches, but what I'm going to do is bring up the X9 Lite transmitter just because it will be easier to see what's happening. But basically you have a mode bank switch, which is on the left, and then you have the actual mode changing on the right. So what I'll do is I'll just bring up the X9 Lite, and you can see it's very similar. The arming switch is there. OSD selection is on the pot. Auto trim and auto tune is on a switch now, which is frankly easier. And you have the momentary switch is doing the momentary switch stuff. These 2 switches here on the front are the flight modes. So again, flight mode A is selecting the bank of flight modes that you want to use, and then you use switch SB to actually select the flight modes within that bank. So the first bank you have horizon, acro, manual. Second bank position, hold, 3D cruise and angle. And in the final bank you have return to home, 3D cruise and waypoint mission. You may have noticed 3D cruise is there twice, and I figured that's probably a good way to progress into the final bank if it's not an emergency. So you just set it up in 3D cruise, flick SA down into bank 3, and then you can go up to waypoint or down to return to home. Obviously, if you're in an emergency situation, switching both switches down will put you straight into return to home. So that's why that was purposely put there. So it's very easy to get into return to home. Just flick both switches down and it was coming back. So that's a brief overview. We'll go over it on the transmitter and show a couple of the functions when we get to that stage. It's all explained in the document, so if you want to go over it a bit more, with also details of what's going on, that's all there. So it goes over the full installation that you need: OpenTX companion, iNav configurator. I'll put both the links for those in the description. How to install the sound pack. Again, I'll go over that all with the transmitter. I've got a special version that I've made for my Horus, so I'll be putting that on there, but it's basically the Lite model with just the switches rearranged for the Horus. The CLI is here, so when you come to doing the iNav section, you just put this in the CLI and that will set the flight modes up for you. You still have to set up the rest of the model for your aircraft, but it will get the modes talking with your transmitter. And there's a graphic here if you want to double check how the modes should look. On all of them, they should look like this. I've cut out the modes that aren't there, so you know you've got all the quad modes, the camera switching. I've just removed it so that they're the modes that are actually active. So what I'll do now is open up OpenTX companion and we'll get the model on the radio. Right, before I actually go into companion, I figured I'd show you what's in the zip file. So I've downloaded the zip file here and I've just opened it up basically so we can have a look. So there's a changelog file. So in the future, if there are any updates, it's worth checking the changelog just in case you have to do something before you install a newer version. There's the 4 model packs for each specific radio. So the Lite, Lite S and Pro, XLite S, XLite. Any other radios like the new jumper, and I still can't remember what the other one was going to be, but they will be included as separate models too. We have the sound pack, which you can put onto your SD card on the transmitter, and you get all the voice prompts. And then the 2 graphics here are just the graphics from the website, so you've got them to hand. It's just for convenience really. So that's what's inside the pack. So now I'm going to get on with the companion stuff. So of course the first thing that we're going to need to do is actually connect our transmitter to the computer. So we just got to power on and then plug in our USB cable. So on this, it's on the back, but I believe on the X9 Lite it's also on the back, and on the XLite I believe it's on the bottom, but you probably know your transmitters better than I do, so we'll just leave that here and get it plugged in. Right, so what you want to do is select SD card and then press the enter button. Sorry, my cable's not quite long enough. Okay, so you've seen me plug the transmitter in. Make sure you use a decent USB cable. If you use a crap one, you can have issues like you may have seen in my standard model video. But yeah, we're all good to go. So what we need to do first is make sure that our radio type is set up for the correct radio for what we're using. So for me, it's obviously X10 Express. For you, it would be either an XLite or an X9 Lite at the moment. And then what we want to do is click this button here to read the models and settings from the radio. So that will pull in all the models that are already there. So now what you need to do is choose your correct transmitter from this list here. And what you want to do is just drag it into an open area on OpenTX. If I tried to do that, it would give me an error. So I'm going to do it with the X10. So let's make that a bit smaller. So what you would do if you're installing this from scratch, what you want to do is install it so that you just have a line. So you can see at the moment there's just a line there. That will mean it will insert the model. So I don't know whether it's going to be like the old Tyrannus, but on the Tyrannus you just have like a load of numbers down here for your model bank without the categories. Just insert it on an empty number and that will be good. So if you want to add it as a new model in the middle, but if you want to overwrite or update, I'll show you how to do that. So what you need to do is first get the receiver type and number. So you can see it's got RX number up here. So we know it's RX25, but if it doesn't show it, we just enter into the actual model itself. And what you're looking for is the protocol and the receiver number. So if you remember those, you can update your OpenTX model. So what you do to update is once you've got those receiver numbers, you just drag it so that the box is around the one that you want to overwrite. Let go, it will tell you you're replacing an existing model and choose yes. Then you would go back into the model. You'd select your receiver type and the receiver number. Just where I'm using this for testing, I've already added it, but it won't be there in the models that you install. So that's it in the model bank. And what we need to do now is put it onto the transmitter. Now what I like to do always is close this one down, because I have had it where you click the button to upload it, it uploads the one with a single model on, you close this down accidentally and you lose everything. So by closing that one down, you can't really make a mistake. Just make sure this is selected. And now we're going to choose write models and settings to radio. Now it doesn't really give much of a hint, but it does change the box down there. It does sometimes to say that it's actually written the models to the radio, but it's on there. You just have to sort of believe that it's going to be there. So what I do now is close down companion. If you wanted to keep a backup of your models, you could have chosen save then, but I've done that a couple of days ago. So the next thing that we want to do is go into the SD card. So when you plug in your transmitter, you'll have a drive that comes up, but it's the name of the transmitter, so it could be Tyrannus or XLite, whatever it is for your particular transmitter. But you don't want that. You want the one that says USB drive. And you go into sounds. At the moment, the only language pack we have is for English. Hopefully in the future we'll have more language packs. But what you would do is, if you're not using English, choose the language pack that you're using. We're going to be using English. And then what you do is open this file here, go into EN, copy all these, and then install them on the transmitter. So this will give me an error because they're all on there. So I'll just skip. But what I can also show you that's on there, if we go back into the base of the sound pack, you can see this sound pack v2 file. If I open that up, what you can see is it's a list of the actual sound files themselves and what they say. So if there's something, if you wanted to add a feature to the radio, so say like you added auto launch, there is a sound file for auto launch already on there. So if you wanted the voices to sound the same, you can use one of these predefined voices. If there's a voice command that you want that's not on there, just get in contact and we'll add it to the pack. So the pack will always get updated and just keep growing at this from now on. So there we go. So that's everything on the transmitter. So what I can do now is head back over to the bench and give you a brief overview of how things work. Right, so after unplugging your USB cable, you'd go in, select your model, which obviously it's going to be different to how it is on here. But again, you know how to use your transmitters, and just basically select the Lite model. So there are some warning switches. So that was the arm switch. So the arming switch, as I say, when you first download it, towards you is disarmed, away from you is armed. Disarmed. And what I do now is show you how to reverse it. Right, so hopefully you can see the screen. I'll zoom in on the video. So what you want to do is enter your model menu, which again, I apologize, I haven't got the correct transmitter, but you'll know how to get to these pages hopefully. And what we're going to do is go through into inputs, go down to ARM, edit. So that's a long press to get that menu up, and then click edit. And we just need to set this to -100. Exit out of the input, hold down page to go backwards. And what we need to do now is reverse our default settings. So put the flight mode in whatever flight mode you want it in for, you know, when you first switch the transmitter on. So if it's angle, I believe it would be that. Put that in the disarmed position. Turn auto trim and auto tune off, and then hold down this button here, and that's it done. So now if you flick it towards you, you arm, and away is disarmed. So that's that switch. So this switch here is auto trim and auto tune. So towards you is auto tune, away is auto trim. Like I said, on the XLite it's the slider up the top. But on the X9 Lite, it is the switch, where you've got the pot there and then the switch. Auto-tune, auto-trim. So there are warnings if you have the throttle high. Auto-trim. And try and arm. Lower throttle to arm. Turn off auto-trim to arm. So you can see turn off auto-trim to arm. You can't arm unless everything's met. So it might seem like it's a kiddie thing to do, but if you accidentally disarm in flight and you're flying and you accidentally disarm and try and arm again, it will remind you to lower the throttle. Same as you've got auto trim and auto tune on. The only thing it won't remind you about is navigation modes. So let's go through our flight modes. So as I said before, the first one is the bank. So this is in bank 1 at the moment at the top. So we have Horizon at the top, Acro, manual. And manual. So the way I've sort of tried to do it is a flow. So we're starting at the bottom, which is full control, which is manual. Acro in the middle, horizon at the top. When you flick into bank 2 with it in horizon, it's in angle. So it's just progressing on the amount of control you're giving to the flight controller. 3D cruise and position hold. As I mentioned, for bank 3, a good way of getting into it is through 3D cruise. So you could put it into 3D cruise in the middle, put that down, and you're still in 3D cruise. Then you have waypoint missions and return to home. So also you might remember I mentioned that, say we're in acro and we want to return to home, we just flick both of these down. Which on obviously the XLite is going to be up here, those two forward. That way return to home is always easy to access. So this is the OSDs. You won't actually be able to see anything on the transmitter. And if you have any of the transmitters other than the basic XLite, you also have the multifunction momentary switch, which to operate you just hold it until it does, or until it says the command that you want.
Timer reset. Save. OSD menu.
So letting go at that point there, it will put the OSD menu up on screen. If you get to the end,
Timer reset.
there is a beep to let you know that it won't actually do anything.
Load mission.
Which I need to fix. There will be a beep after load mission. If you're armed, it can only do timer reset.
Timer reset.
So the beep's there, I just need to check it. Don't worry, in the final release, which is actually coming out tomorrow, that will be fixed. So there we go, that's basically the model as it is on the transmitter. Now what we'll do is take a quick look of how you set it up on iNav. So here's our transmitter, here's our flight controller, and here's iNav. So all we're going to do is connect. What you need to do is just make sure that your receiver is working. So that's all good. Obviously OSDs and everything you need to set up yourself. Same with everything else on the model, to be honest. The only thing we're going to be setting up is the modes. So to do that, we're going to go into the CLI. And then what we're going to do is go to our CLI commands here, copy them, and then paste them in here. When you hit enter, it will update everything and save it for you automatically. So the first command on that CLI script, what that does is when you fail safe, it will automatically switch back to the default OSD. So if you're going to have your GPS coordinates on any OSD, I highly recommend putting them on the default. You can have whatever you want on any of the others, but if you have your GPS coordinates on the default OSD, if you fail safe, they will appear. So what that's actually changed the script other than that is just the modes. So we have our arming switch on channel 5, which always arms in this position here. So if you know about the free sky bug, this will stop you accidentally, well, not accidentally, it will stop you disarming it in flight if you encounter the bug. Because the reason why you change the weight on the arm switch rather than doing just a standard sort of reverse is because no matter which way the switch is on the transmitter, armed is always at this point here. So the bug, if you don't know, basically puts everything to 998 or 988, whatever the pulse width is. But that is your arm position, so it won't disarm. So what we have next is the flight modes, which, let's get it on screen. So we go all the way up, you've got horizon, acro is nothing selected, and then I think manual's the next one, which is there. Go into our second bank. So we've got angle, 3D cruise, so you have alt hold and nav cruise, position hold. So I'll put that back in the middle, and then I'll move to the third bank, and you'll see 3D cruise is also active on here. So of course feel free to change one of those 3D cruises to a different flight mode if you wish. And then the final two are up for waypoint
3D cruise. Return to home.
and down for return to home. So you can see it's all on channel 6. It's all blended in the transmitter, so you can't select 2 flight modes at the same time. So iNav isn't going to battle and choose a priority order. Whatever flight mode you put it in, iNav will try to do, obviously depending on whether you're flying, that sort of thing. You can see RTH isn't lit up at the moment because the flight controller knows it's not flying, so it won't allow it. So next up we have Autotrim and Autotune.
Auto-tune. Auto-trim.
And then finally we have our pot here for the OSDs. So we have the standard OSD. We move over into Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, and then finally OSD off if you want a nice unobstructed view of the sky. So you notice it's on a pot, but it moves like a switch. So it has 5 distinct positions. That was done purposely, so don't worry, it's not broken. That's how it's supposed to work. And that's basically it. So the only other thing I could show you potentially is the multifunction working in iNav. So what we'll see soon is the channels changing to open the OSD menu.
Timer reset.
Or we won't because I'm armed.
Disarmed. Timer reset. Save. OSD menu.
There you go. And it lasts for half a second. It used to be longer, but there was an issue with the F411 wing where if it was longer than half a second, it didn't actually accept the commands. It just sort of flashed the OSD menu on and off. So that's there, which, to be honest, the save has actually reminded me of one thing that I've forgotten to show you guys. Right, apologies guys. I did actually find another issue, and it turns out I didn't actually update my horror special with what's actually in the pack that's gone live. So the live one was already fine. So all I've done is imported the live and changed the layout again for the horror. So I'll show you the switch thing
Timer
works.
reset. Save. OSD menu. Load mission.
So that triple beep at the end means that it won't do anything with the menu. So what I was going to try and demonstrate, which I've no doubt cut out because it went wrong, is if you go for a fly, so we'll arm, we'll fly, and we'll do auto tune.
Auto-tune.
Finish our tune, land, disarm.
Disarmed. Don't forget to save.
It gives you a reminder that you don't forget to save your auto tune settings, otherwise they'll be gone when you unplug the battery, which of course you can do that by going
Timer reset. Save.
and that's it, done. So there we go. That is the Lite OpenTX model from the iNav fixed wing group. I hope you guys like it. Of course, please feel free to leave feedback. If you have any issues, the best place to get in contact with us would be on the iNav fixed wing group on Facebook. But until the next time, fly your models like you stole them. Have fun. See ya.